Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Parenting in the Far North. I am your host, Ariane Aaron Bureau. Today's guest is a stay-at-home mom of 3. She also homeschools her kids. We got 12, 10, and 6. They all have food allergies, with her middle child, she says, has the most. She's had to learn to get creative with meals and foods that her kids can eat, but says Alaska's been great when it comes to foraging. Please welcome to the podcast, Stephanie Moore. Stephanie, thanks for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Well, food allergies, I feel like a lot of families and parents can relate. So let's just start kind of from the beginning. When you first found out or realized that your kids now have food allergies, was it something that you were able to catch before they were born, after they were born? Tell me about that process.
So with my firstborn, I just kind of thought maybe something was going on. It wasn't as obvious. She just kind of would get rashes all the time. I felt like I was kind of turning into a dermatologist. And so I would cut some things out and it got better. But then when my secondborn came along, and he right away showed signs of food allergies. He would get hives, and then he started getting bloody stools in his diaper. It was right away. And so we started eliminating things. You kind of have to wait a little while before you can get into the allergist. And so we were trying to eliminate things and figure it out. But when we went there, it was wow, okay. It was never a good sign when the allergist comes in and says, your son is an overachiever. And
oh, no, overachiever.
I was not here. Let's not do that. So, yeah, he was just much more there's something serious.
Had you had allergies before, or do you have any allergies yourself?
So,
or in your
no.
family?
My husband's allergic to, birch trees, but that's it. It was, very unexpected. So,
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you mentioned that your middle child has the most food allergies. What are some things that they can't have, and how old is your middle child now?
So he's 10 now, and
Okay.
we found out right away when he was born, and he has quite a few anaphylactic allergies. He's allergic to peanuts and tree nuts and soy, peas, dairy, garlic. That was a really weird one, and dairy. It's hard to name them all. There's so many, and eggs. Eggs is another big one for him.
Okay.
So yeah, a lot of different things.
So I'm sure you've gotten great at reading food labels, finding alternatives to recipes. How has the journey been? I know they're obviously older now, but man, 10 years, that seems like a very long time navigate that.
Yeah. And I remember coming home and going through our pantry. They give you a packet of stuff, because food isn't always just called dairy on a label. And so you get a paper for each allergy that tells you all the different things it can be called. And I remember having my stack of papers and going through my pantry and being I have to throw all of this stuff away. We can't eat any of it. So yeah, reading food labels is crazy. But I'm a pro at it now and teaching them. Yeah, so it's just been a wild ride of figuring it all out and realizing whole food is much simpler than reading all these labels.
All those ingredients on the back where you can't even pronounce the names, and not knowing if maybe there's an ingredient in that they're allergic to. That was probably kind of hard. Did you have any misses where you're they had something and you thought it was clear and they had an allergic reaction?
We did have that, yeah. And luckily it was something that was not a scary situation. But yeah, for sure. A big one, garlic can be called spice on anything or natural flavor. So it's just it can be hidden in those little things. And yeah, the guilt of that when you I messed up and now you're feel terrible. So it's awful. Yeah.
So your middle has the most. What about your other 2 kiddos?
So I thought I had all things figured out after the first 2, and then I got pregnant again, and I was worrying the whole time, oh no, is this one going to have a lot of allergies? And he came along, and of course his are different than everybody else's. So he really threw me for a loop because I thought I was all set with my recipes and everything, but he's allergic to latex foods. So we couldn't have tomato or banana or avocado. And so that one, the tomato was really hard to figure out. But I make a mean no-mato sauce with beets and sweet potatoes now. I don't know.
No-mato. I like that.
It's pretty clever, but yeah.
So when they have these food allergies, is this something that like happens as they're developing? What did you learn from the allergist,
Yeah.
especially when they were born?
I know. And it seems like they don't really know for sure, like when it happens or why it happens is, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess I never really got a clear answer. It was just more like there's a good chance that they'll grow out of a lot of these. Some of them, like peanuts, will probably stick around for life. Like some of those like that. But yeah.
How do you deal with them, getting invited to birthday parties or you guys are traveling and there's snacks because you can't just go into the airport or somewhere and grab something off the shelf. You probably always have to have something on you.
Yes, I probably have like 10 snacks in my bag right now. But yeah, I know. Like that's the biggest thing is like I'm always planning, always thinking about food, I feel like. And so it is hard when you go to a birthday party. It's, I bring a full meal for them and I make cupcakes. So it feels like every birthday party we go to, I'm also like making a cake for, so it kind of is exhausting. And for a long time, we didn't really travel either because I just was like, there's so many unknowns and I don't know how to navigate it. But now that they've gotten older and I'm a little bit braver, we have. And we just always do like an Airbnb so I can cook, hit up the grocery store, and we just really hope that we're not stuck at an airport for a long time because it would be...
Oh, man. Yeah. Like, here's water.
Yeah.
Was it easier for them to manage when they were really little or now that they're a little bit older?
I'm feeling more comfortable in it now just because they've learned so much and they can read a label and I'm not worried about, like, it was scary when Camden, that's my middle child, was really small and, like, put things in his mouth and stuff like that. And so it was, like, I knew, like, we can't have anything with peanuts here. Like, we have to clear this all out. And he used to get hives, like, just from playing with toys, like, at like a doctor's office or something. It was scary then.
Yeah.
So I feel a lot more comfortable now, I would say.
Are their allergies really sensitive to the fact that because like I have a friend who is allergic to shellfish and so some people can be around it in the room, some just cannot. How is that with your kids for the different foods, keeping track of three
right.
kiddos?
So
Lainey, how does that work?
My oldest Lainey and my youngest Kate, theirs are okay, like to be around it. Cam, I'm a little more cautious of, like, I wouldn't really want him to be around peanuts or anything like that. And also, it's kind of weird. Garlic, he's super sensitive to that and like the smell of it in the air. Like we've been at like Costco before and they have their samples out and I'm like, are you okay? Like his eyes start like watering and getting all red and sometimes we'll have to leave. It's weird, but yeah.
How have you and your husband adjusted to, life with dealing with the food allergies? As obviously before kids, you guys are probably, having and eating what you wanted and then they come along. Have you missed, do you miss out on being able to eat like garlic or do you guys go have like a little date night?
Yes.
And you go, kissing them, you got to brush your teeth. Like,
yes.
what is that?
It's so true.
Like,
yeah. That was a huge adjustment because, yeah, we did love to go out to eat and stuff, and we just don't do that anymore. So, yeah, date night is when we'll, like, be like, all right, we're going to eat all the things and whatnot. And my husband has learned, too, like, to be careful. Eggs, he loves eggs, but Camden is so allergic to them. And, like, he'll have, like, a breakfast sandwich with it, kiss him on the forehead, and I'll be like, you kiss Camden. And now he's, like, full-on hives. Like, you can't do that. But, yeah.
How have you empowered your kids to be aware of ingredients, and when did they kind of come to realize, like, oh, something's a little bit different with me. I can't have that. I can't eat this.
Yeah, it's hard. It was hard to explain at first. Like, I always would just say, like, that makes you sick, or you're going to have a tummy ache, or, like, you get all itchy, those kind of things. And, like, they learned it that way. And then now it was, like, I would see them maybe not want to go to a birthday party at first because it kind of, like, puts all this attention on you.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'm eating something different, and that's not really fun. But luckily, they've made some, like, really good friends, and, like, they just feel more comfortable in this situation now. But it was hard at first to feel those things, I think.
Yeah, to kind of feel some sense of normalcy.
Yeah.
You mentioned here living in Alaska, foraging and hunting. Of course, we know that's what people love to do in the outdoors. How has that helped your family with getting, with the food allergies?
So much. So when we first found out Lainey's allergies, she was allergic to beef. And then Camden was allergic to chicken and pork. And we were like, what are we going to eat? And my husband went out and bought a rifle and he like turned into a big game hunter.
Really?
So it's like, yeah,
wow.
It's been great that we can fill our freezer with moose and caribou and salmon and all sorts of good stuff. And then They love to go pick berries and do all the things, and I just feel like it just supports us in such a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this something that they grow out of? How does that work with, as they
Yes.
get a little bit older? Have you noticed more have come on? Have they been able to tolerate maybe foods that they weren't able to when they were younger?
Yes. So I feel like we're finally hitting that spot. It didn't feel like we were ever going to get there. But Lainey has grown out of being allergic to beef and potato. So that was awesome. And Camden just got his first foods back, which was huge. He got wheat back, which was game changer. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so easy to cook like baked bread now. Yeah. So
what are some of their favorite foods that either you make or they can have from your kiddos?
So a top one is with that no-mayo sauce, and it's just like a goulash. I'm from the Midwest originally, and so we're like a hot dish kind of place. And so that was hard because it's like, well, this person can't have this or that. So this one, just like noodles and some ground moose and some no-mayo sauce is a favorite. But yeah.
What would you have advice for other families or parents, maybe just getting into this or finding out, or maybe they're a little bit older and then food allergies have set on? You've got 3 kiddos and all 3 of them have that. What have you learned most? What is your best advice you can give to a family that's maybe going through this?
Is that it's super overwhelming at first, but just take a breath and think of it one meal at a time and just really just try to simplify things. Because at the end of the day, they could eat sweet potatoes with just like salt and pepper on it, and they can eat, like a roast or whatnot. So just like keep it simple and you'll figure it out.
Have you found or met any other families? Are there like support groups out there? I'm just curious with like Facebooks of kiddos have food allergies, swapping recipes and things like that.
Yes, there is actually even like an Alaska Facebook allergy group that I learned a lot from at first. And then another one I'm in is like a garlic allergy group, which was super helpful because that is everywhere. It's crazy. Yeah.
I've heard that, a garlic allergy.
I know. And it's like they first test them for the top 20 allergies. So it's a pretty common one to have. And all 3 of them are pretty sensitive to it. But Camden is very allergic. So, yeah. But, yeah, there's lots of support groups. And I feel like everything we get involved with now, I find someone else there with allergies. It's so common.
Yeah, so you don't have to feel alone or like it's a taboo. And because most people, when they think allergies, it's like the nut allergy or peanuts and things like that. But your kiddos have had a gamut. I'm sure the list could go on. I lost my train of thought. That's what I wanted to ask. So, like recipes, you mentioned the no-mayo sauce. I love that. You need to have a shirt with that on. What are some of your other recipes that you make? I feel like you should have a cookbook.
I know. I think about that sometimes, but then I feel like I'm terrible at like writing anything down. I'm just like,
gotta do it.
I do
measure by your heart.
I totally do. So let's see, some of the other things I make, like since they're all can't have dairy, we do like, it's like a cheese sauce, but it's with sweet potatoes.
Interesting.
It's crazy.
Explain.
So it's like I have this magic blender that cooks for you, which I highly recommend. That was a game changer. But yeah, it's just a sweet potato, and I put it in oat milk and like turn it on cook, and then I'll thicken it with like a gluten-free flour or something like that. Yeah, a little bit. And then, just season it from there. So I kind of like will make that and keep it in the fridge, and I'll make like a mac and cheese or whatever with that, or we'll make queso. But I don't know, it's crazy.
Wow.
It's all different. But that's like a favorite thing. And then we still have pizza night and stuff, but their pizza just looks way different than anybody else's does. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Dessert-wise, what do they have for like kind of sweets? Do they have a sweet tooth or create something like that?
Yes. So Lainey loves chocolate. But yeah. So I went back and you can find like some simple recipes, like old ones. Like there's one called a crazy cake from like the Depression era. So they didn't have eggs available. So they used like baking soda and vinegar to make the reaction. So like this crazy cake is just very simple, but it's delicious. So yeah, there's a way for all of it. It's just like I'll read a recipe and I know like I have to make these substitutions. Like I can make flax eggs instead of eggs and this or that. And so you can kind of convert most. I mean, most of the recipes to be safe. But
When it comes to seasonings and like, there's garlic powder, garlic salt, is that the same thing that they can't even have that because it's just any garlic whatsoever?
none of those. And then you also have to like be careful of like chili powder has garlic in it, and like taco seasonings and whatnot. So I've just kind of learned how to make those seasonings myself also. So
Along this journey as a mom, what have you learned most about, from then to now and, parenting your kiddos without having the food allergies?
I have learned a lot. I feel like they taught me how to cook because I didn't know it all before. And so I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. And just knowing like how much I love them, I have to pour my heart into it. It's like I want to make their birthday party special so that they are like, hey, everybody's eating this food and they like it. And I'm just one of the group now, Yeah.
Doesn't have to taste bland. Like
Right.
cupcakes can be cool, even if there aren't any eggs in them. Very interesting. I one kid with food allergies. I mean, you have all three. The
I know.
odds of that.
Right.
that. Anything else that you want to mention or add? I'll let you have the last, the last point that you want to share or you feel that's on your heart, just in regards to maybe food allergies, parent life in general.
Let's see. One thing I was thinking about on my way here was just like how much like food is just a part of everything, it feels like. And you really kind of feel that when you have the food allergies, you're like, great, I have another event. And so it's really refreshing when people think of that and ask about food allergies, and you don't have to be like, well, hey, and mention it. So just thinking about all those little kids that maybe can't have all these treats and whatnot, it would be amazing.
I would say, that is a good point. If you're there in class, and for other parents to be aware that there are kiddos there when maybe they say we have a kid with food allergies, that that's a real deal, and to be sensitive to that, and maybe sharing with your kiddos to be sensitive to the other kids.
Yeah, for sure.
But like you said, food allergies now are just like, that's the norm.
It really is. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, very interesting. Stephanie, thank you so much for sharing your story. Again, you said there is a Facebook group here locally. So
Yes.
if you, do you know the name of that, or if they just search
gosh.
like in Facebook? Okay.
Yeah, if they search for Alaska and like food allergy, I know it would pop up right away, but I'm not 100% on it.
But that's been helpful for you. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Stephanie, thanks for coming on and sharing your story. And thank
you.
you all for listening to another episode of Parenting in the Far North. And don't forget to like and subscribe.